The goal is always to do things as holistically as possible. But what if you're doing everything as holistically as possible and you still run into health issues? What's the next step? Today's guest and I are going to discuss this and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel. Today, I'm talking with Dr. Nicole, who is a natural medicine, naturopathic doctor, and we are going to discuss all things fertility, childbirth, and then raising babies in this modern world, which can be absolutely full of toxic things. And so, Dr. Nicole and I meet eye to eye on how much of everything can we do completely naturally. And then what happens when our children still run into issues like eczema? And eczema is a huge issue that so many babies and children are dealing with these days, even children that take a natural holistic route. And so we wanted to talk about this topic and kind of bring an awareness to it. I was so excited to meet Dr. Nicole, and I definitely recommend that you go to the show notes and check out all of her information, give her a follow. She's got her own podcast. I hope you enjoy this conversation. First, a quick shout out to two sponsors. The first one is going to be Viva Rays. They are my go-to source for protecting my circadian rhythms. You can use my code YOGI to save there. They also have fantastic non-native EMF emitting earphones and fantastic eye masks to help you sleep. Second sponsor is Upgraded Formulas. I love their hair tissue mineral analysis. And I also recommend getting a consultation because sometimes those can be very difficult to interpret. Use my code YOGI12 or YOGI to save there. And they have fantastic minerals as well. And check them out, Upgraded Formulas. Let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am so excited to have Dr. Nicole Huffman here today. We're going to talk about all things fertility, babies, alternative health. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh gosh, thanks for having me. It's like one of my favorite topics. So it's great.
Yeah, I started following you on Instagram. I guess you had just started posting about your fertility journey and all the things that you've been through. And now you're posting things about eczema that I want to talk about that also. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, because I just had a baby almost 9 months ago, and your son is almost 6 months. So we're kind of like similar path with all the
Oh,
mom stuff.
definitely.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. So tell my audience a little bit about yourself and, if you want to jump into the fertility stuff right off, cool.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a naturopathic doctor. I'm based in Colorado, but I see people in person one day a week. And then other than that, I'm kind of like remote all over the world, which has really been super cool. And just kind of helping. I always like to tell people that naturopathic medicine is sort of like detective work. We're really just trying to figure out the root cause. And it's so different from person to person, right? Like kind of 5 women who come in with hormonal imbalances and their root cause is different from each person. And so I'm a huge fan of using energy as well as like really basic, like your blood labs and a Dutch test and, sort of like more integrative labs, but I really like using muscle testing and all sorts of cool stuff. I sort of like to tell my patients that like whatever we can use to get you feeling better the fastest is what we'll use, right? Even if some of it looks a little like a magic show. And so I've sort of over the years become more focused on hormones and fertility, although I do treat like a lot of autoimmune and various other illnesses as well. But I think just like my own personal experience with fertility and hormones has sort of led me to like love that niche a little bit more. And really, I guess like my own personal story is more, I kind of got into holistic medicine because I had super bad asthma and allergies as a kid. I was just like that child that like literally reacted to everything, was always in and out of the hospital with breathing issues, and kind of got rid of my own asthma and allergies, which was pretty cool. And then kind of kept going down that medical path or the holistic medical path of realizing that traditional medicine wasn't really the answer for a lot of people. And I don't like to just really bash it either, because they saved my life. I had like postpartum hemorrhage and I had my son at home, and it was pretty dire because I had a little bit of retained placenta, which is actually like pretty rare for a home birth, since no one's like pulling on the cord, getting your placenta to come out. It really was, birthed naturally and on its own, but there is still this little retained piece. And so, yeah, medical, Western medicine saved my life. Right. So I definitely think there's like a place for everything, but, in terms of like these chronic things that we're
Yeah.
seeing and even infertility, I just feel like there's so many more answers and there's so many more places to look before we're sort of like diving into the kind of the traditional model, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like the medical model is there to kind of just keep us alive. Like you said, you were in a life-threatening situation. They were able to save your life essentially. However, if you're dealing with allergies or asthma or eczema, one of these things, you're going to basically be slapped with a suppressive medicine instead of let's actually see what's causing this and support you in that. And
Absolutely.
same thing with fertility, my fertility journey. I went through multiple miscarriages. I went through 2 rounds of IVF, and they were just like, well, it's just because of your age, and sorry, you should probably look at donor eggs. No one was ever able to give me any answers. And then it's like, all right, I have to kind of be my own detective here and find out the root cause of this, because so many women are just told you have infertility or unexplained infertility. That's why you're unable to get pregnant. So you need to do all these other medical interventions. And I'm like, I just can't believe that for all the women out there who are struggling. And it's such an emotional, difficult journey.
Oh my gosh, it's such an emotional, difficult journey. And I feel like as women who really want to have babies and then are told like they don't have enough eggs or their eggs
Right.
are old, or I I think they told me that like I had eggs of like some, like 50 something year old woman. And it's devastating because you're
Yeah.
like, I'm a female. This is like the one thing you feel like your body should be able to do, and it's not doing it for whatever reason. And yet you see these women all the time who are told they have no eggs. And
Yeah.
then after maybe they conceive their first child through IVF, and then they end up having like two other
Natural.
children naturally. And it's like, oh, I just like got new eggs all of this. I mean, it's so interesting. And I'm sure too, but the words that doctors say, or whoever you're
Mm-hmm.
putting in a place of hierarchy, professional, is they mean a lot, and they really stick with
Yeah.
people too.
Yeah.
And it can make kind of getting over that hump even harder sometimes too.
Oh yeah. I mean, my partner Carrie Bidden and we run a fertility course now. She was one of the ones that helped me through my journey, and then kind of helped train me to understand all of the stuff about hormones. And so we run a course now, and that's
Awesome.
module 1, week 1 for the ladies and men too that are in there with their partners, is mindset and getting rid of that old programming. And for me on
So
my
true.
journey, it was like I had to basically listen to Louise Hay. Like she's kind of an old school, reprogram your brain, but
Yes.
she spoke to me at that time in my life. And it was like, I just have to listen to this like on repeat all day to get that medical programming out of my head. You're too old. Your eggs are not good. Like that. We internalize that so quickly.
It's so fast. And I think instead of, I mean, really, there's a lot of us out there who are like helping to help women have babies and work on
Mm-hmm.
fertility and hormones. And really, at the end of the day, like pregnancy is just a miracle. It just
Oh my
is.
gosh.
There are
Right.
women who are getting pregnant who like maybe shouldn't be by the way they treat their bodies and their lifestyle. And then there's women who do everything right and they have the hardest time until one day they just kind of surrender, and then there it is,
Yes.
right? I mean, it's such a miracle. And it's for me, it's been like such a great teacher that it's like I mean, I have a course on fertility too, and I feel like I just say like I'm just trying to set you up for your best chance, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
trying to do what I know we can do that's in our control, because let's be real, the majority of it isn't. and
Yeah.
and definitely a fertility specialist who does like one panel of labs is not the
Mm-hmm.
one who can tell you what your body's capable of, right?
No, definitely not. I feel like it was for me and so many other women that I've talked to, you have to get to that place of, envisioning it, feeling it. Like I would sit in my bed at night and like pretend I was holding the baby, but I would like feel all the emotions and like take
Yes.
myself to that place. And the month I started doing that, the next month I actually got pregnant and it was like,
That's so awesome.
it's like you do
So
all the
awesome.
things and all the things are like helpful and necessary, but someone I follow, she says perfect doesn't make pregnant, and we have
Mm-hmm.
to, there's a surrender that has to happen as well.
There is. I have gone to a couple Dr. Joe Dispenza
Mm-hmm.
retreats and events because I just love it. And I had a meditation there when I was, we were trying to conceive, and I just like felt it. I knew it. I saw it. I saw everything. I was like sobbing, which doesn't matter because everyone's sobbing or screaming. I mean, the noises that come out of people in these retreats are something. But I came out of it and I was like, oh yeah, I can do, like, no problem. It's like there's this part of like just seeing it and knowing it, and I think it changes everything, truly.
I think so too. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear about your journey. I mean, especially
Yeah.
with your background as a naturopathic doctor, kind of knowing all that how that went for you.
Yeah, I would say part of being a naturopathic doctor probably made it way more frustrating. I've helped hundreds of women conceive who didn't think they were going to be able to. And so when it comes to yourself, you're all of a sudden like, all right, wait a second. Like I know what I'm doing. I've been here before with a bunch of other women and like my patients and like what's going on. And so I would say in the beginning, it was definitely a huge humbling experience of like, okay, like we're going to have to learn some new things and try some new stuff. And I think there was part of what I think made our journey a little bit longer is that we were living in mold and didn't know
Mm.
for a long time. And I'm good friends with Dr. Jill Carnahan, who talks a lot about mold toxicity. And I was lucky to have her in my back pocket. And she was like, this could be a huge reason why you had a miscarriage and why um, it's taking so long to conceive. I mean, I'm a big believer in like the spirit of the baby, and I think they have their own timing. And I think they also sometimes are like, let's get mom, going through a couple of these things first before I choose to come down. And who wants to come down in a moldy environment, truly? So
Yeah.
um, we had, handled all of that, and then really was giving my body a full 6 months of mycotoxin detox and all of that. And then COVID hit and everything. And I started horseback riding, and as like an outdoor activity, something different, also just something to get my mind off of fertility. I mean, as you know,
Oh
too,
yeah.
it's like
Takes up your
becomes
whole
this
brain.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you're thinking about it every month, because if you don't get a cycle, it's like you're living your life by like months, I feel like, by like your cycles. And so I was like, I just need something different. Um, and meanwhile, I had been learning a lot more about hormones and a lot about mold. And we ended up buying a ranch, and we have a bunch of horses now. And there was something about changing for me, was changing location, sort of slowing down a little bit, which seems silly because ranches are a ton of work, but it is like a slower, a little bit, you're outside a lot more. You're really, outside first thing in the morning in the sun, and you're outside, before there's the sun going down, and you're outside in all sorts of weather. And there was just like a bunch of changes that I feel like happened for me mentally and maybe spiritually too. And then I also had started using peptides, and I don't know if you're pretty familiar with peptides
Yeah,
or
I
not,
use some
but
peptides also. Yep.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started using Kiss Peptin to sort of, so one of the things that happened when I moved to the ranch is that all of a sudden you're walking so much more, and I had lost a lot of weight for my body, and had lost my cycle. And I was like, well, this is completely defeating the purpose of
Yeah.
what we're trying to do here. And so, and I think a lot of it was just probably just my body, bodies are so sensitive. And when you lose weight for some women, you can really change your hormone dynamic and everything. And so I had used some Peptin to kind of start regulating things a little bit. I had been doing a lot of the Dr. Joe meditations. My diet has always been clean, so I really can't say that I had cleaned that up too much. I just have already been pretty clean, but in a way I had kind of relaxed on it a little bit. Like you had said, that perfect doesn't equal pregnant. I think there was a part of just sort of like, all right, let's like scale back a little bit. Let's relax into this. You've got this really beautiful place. You're really interacting with these really majestic animals. And sort of we had just kind of gotten the hang of ranch life and everything, and I got pregnant. I mean, it was super cool, and it was such a different cycle too. Like we actually conceived like day 4 of my cycle or something. Like it was so
Wow.
not even like a typical one, and there was just this like knowing around it. And but I do feel like the peptides definitely helped, and I feel like just everything I had done up until that point had helped a lot too. I think a lot of women get frustrated too by how long it can take. But my mentor used to say, you don't just want a baby, you want a healthy baby.
Yes.
And at the time I was like, no, I just want a baby. And he's like, you want a healthy baby. And I was like, all right. And your eggs take a really long time, right? I mean, you know this if you teach all of this stuff, and we're taught like sort of 90 days, but really it starts way before that too. And so all the things you've been doing for all this time are still really impacting your body, and they're helping the tissue of your uterine lining, and they're helping the egg quality, and they're helping your mindset and everything else. And so I just felt like it was that time where everything came together. And I don't know if you can look at this too with your own journey, but it really was the perfect timing. Like if I had gotten pregnant sooner, we would never have embarked on ranch anything. And we love it, but it would have been way too overwhelming. So it sort of was like this perfect timing to get to this place, and to get to sort of like a big change in lifestyle, and then also where I was mentally, and I think where my husband was too, honestly. And so I just felt like, yeah, it all kind of came together, and it's really easy to look back now and be like, oh, it was the perfect timing. Where you're in it, you're like, this is taking so long. But I do feel like it kind of all came together.
Yeah, I totally understand that whole feeling of like, because I feel like when you're on that fertility journey, like so many women are just living by the month, it's like cycle and ovulation and then 2-week wait and then, oh, okay, start it over again. And it just seems like it's literally taking forever. But I'm a big believer in the baby kind of coming when they're ready and like waiting for things to be a specific way. Um, and I think maybe yours was waiting for you to get to the ranch. It's like, all right, now I've got this home I'm going to come to. It's going to be amazing. All these horses. So yeah, there's just so many things that play into it besides like our desire to have it done at our timing.
I so agree. And I think we were sort of like joking, like, oh, Asher is my son's name. Like he really just like wanted some horses, or he really liked this like miniature donkey we have. I don't know. I mean, but I think they definitely have a plan too. There is this, like, have you read the book Spirit Babies?
Yes.
It's so good. I mean,
Yeah, it
I
is so
recommend
good.
that to so many of like the women in waiting, right? Because I think it just provides like a different perspective, that can be really helpful.
Definitely. Yeah. We had been living in a really small house for 15 years. And then all of a sudden, this one that we're in now came on the market. And we were not expecting to buy a house, but it was just like such a great house. We had to have it and got a positive pregnancy test the same week. And
Oh
then,
my gosh.
yeah. And I was like, wait a second, you
Oh
know? And then it's like you get the positive and you're kind of like in that waiting. You're like, okay, is this okay? Am I going to see the heartbeat? And you go through all that
my gosh.
anxiety. And we closed on the house and saw the heartbeat in the same week and was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
okay, he just was waiting for us because we didn't have
Yeah.
a bedroom for him in our old house.
Oh,
We were
interesting.
like thinking, okay, well, we'll just kind of let him stay in our room in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, but
Yeah.
we're like, well, he was just waiting for the,
He
for the
wanted his
house where,
own room.
yeah, he wanted his own room. He didn't want to stay with us. So,
Right. Oh, that's so funny. I mean, I do think there is something about like making space. That was one of the things we did too, was like almost immediately it was my husband's office and I was like, we're gonna have to move you to a different space. Like this is his room. My husband was like, okay, guess I'm shifting. I was like, sorry, this is what's happening. But I do think that there is like kind of a prep, right? And
yeah,
I do also feel like, you get that positive pregnancy test and especially if you've been through miscarriage, you're like, I'm so excited. And now there's like this new piece of waiting. And then there's another piece of waiting. And it's sort of like that. I feel like the worry piece
yeah.
doesn't really end. Like,
It doesn't it didn't end for me until birth. That was my biggest regret
yeah.
about pregnancy is that I was, after having a couple of miscarriages, I was like the whole pregnancy, like, is he okay? Kind of waiting for that next midwife appointment, poking my stomach, drinking cold beverages to make sure he'd move around constantly. I'm like, I probably drove the
Aw.
poor baby crazy, but
Ah, ah.
it's like
Right.
until you're
He's like,
holding them, you're kind of like, is everything okay?
it
So
is
there's,
like
yeah,
the ultimate exercise in trust and faith,
yep,
no doubt.
yeah, yeah. And I'd had a vision in 2016 of like a little boy. I went to see a medium because I wanted to
Aw.
see my dad because he had passed like 20 years ago. And I was like, I just want to connect with my dad. And I went to this medium to try to reconnect with my dad. It's totally woo woo, but a
I
little
love it.
boy came through and I wasn't even planning on having any more kids at that point. But a little boy came through and he was like jumping up and down and he was like, I'm healthy. You can bring me here. It's okay. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. And I could never really get that out of my head. So the whole, pregnancy journey and all of that, I kept on trying to envision that little boy being like, I'm healthy, it's okay. And
Yeah.
it's like, then we found out it was a boy. I'm like, wait a minute, that was that like real? Like,
That's so awesome. One of
yeah,
my good friends is a medium, and honestly, sometimes I think those messages are just like they're sort of reaffirming and
yeah,
just yeah, consoling a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, like this is all working out. This is, the little boy was like ready when you were, right?
yep, exactly. Exactly.
That's
Well,
awesome.
yeah. Well, I'd love to talk a little bit about, so you did the home birth thing. It sounds like you're on a really natural path, kind of probably aligned with the way that I am in raising children and just looking at childhood issues like eczema, allergies, that sort of thing. I'd love to talk a little bit about just your experience parenting and then even as a doctor with a lot of these things because I didn't know how rampant they were until I had a little one, and then you
Hmm.
get on
Hmm.
the mom boards and I'm like, wow, a lot of these kids have a lot of issues.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's like a couple rabbit holes you can go down. And I don't know how much you speak on certain rabbit holes in your podcast, but
I'm all about rabbit holes.
you're like, I love every hole that
Bring
a
it.
rabbit goes down.
Yeah.
I'd say for me personally, I did want to do a home birth. His actual birth was beautiful and it was great and it was fast. It was like 5 hours.
Oh, nice.
And it probably would have been faster, but he had his like little hand up
Oh
next to
my
his
gosh,
head.
my son had came out with his hand
Did
just like
he?
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, did you get a nice tear too? Because I
No, it
definitely
wasn't
did.
bad. It was only 1 degree. They wouldn't
Oh,
even,
that's nice.
yeah, yeah. It was fast though. He was like, I almost had him in the car because
Oh my
I had to
gosh.
compromise with my husband. I wanted to do home, but we found a center that was an hour from here.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah. So yeah, I went into labor. I'm like, I think I'm in hard labor. We need to go. And we were literally like around the block from the hospital and I felt him kind of slide down. So
Oh my gosh. You're like, we'll just be going here.
yeah, it was fast. But yeah, my son also had the hand just like, yeah, which
Oh, that's
totally
so funny.
flipped out my husband.
Right. Well, I think in our situation, it was preventing him from coming
From coming
out.
down. Yep.
And so, um, I ended up, I really was like envisioning this, it was Christmas time. I had the birthing tub next to the Christmas tree. It was like a whole thing. And I ended up the one place in the one position that I really thought I wouldn't give birth, like in my bedroom on my back.
Oh,
But
wow.
she had to move his hand each time I was pushing because
Oh,
it was preventing him from coming out. So it probably would have been a lot even faster
faster.
without his little hand there.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. As a reminder, head down to the show notes to follow Dr. Nicole. I think we're going to have to do a part 2. She was just one of those people I wanted to talk to long after we hit the stop button. I also wanted to remind you I have a brand new website, www.sarahkleinerwellness.com. And as a podcast or YouTube listener, you can always save 10% on anything over on my website. And you can also get my free resources now on that website. You're building your perfect quantum day, as well as the free guide to using blue blockers and my FAQ guide that answers over 30 pages worth of questions having to do with sunlight, with water, grounding, red light therapy. It's really just a fantastic resource. So make sure you head on over to my website if you are looking for resources or you want to dive deeper into a course. It's www.sarahkleinerwellness.com. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get back to the show.
So anyways, his birth and everything was great. It was just that aftermath that got a little sticky. But even so, I wasn't in the hospital for very long, like 12 hours, just enough to get some blood. And I was like, get me out of here. This is the whole reason I wanted to do a home birth, was so I didn't have to leave. And since then, I'm nursing. Like I said, I'm like pretty clean with my diet and, just doing all these different things that I have recommended to my patients for their babies. And so I was pretty shocked again with like the humbling with him having eczema. I was like, wait a second, this is usually what I see from like my moms who eat a lot of gluten or a lot of dairy or sugar or processed foods or uses other substances that they
medications for their babies,
medications and different things. Yeah. And I was like, I am not doing any of that. Like, what is going on here? It was like very tricky. And it's just, again, it's like one of those things. It's like, we also live in this world that is super toxic. And there's only so much you can do. Right. And I've always sort of had like trended a little bit more fungal, like not really even what you would think of like yeast infections or anything, but probably dealt with like some fungal overgrowth in my gut. And so I just passed some of that to him is what we're thinking. And then also one of our holistic pediatricians said something was really interesting. We had a huge fire here in Colorado before I got pregnant. It was actually right by the clinic I used to work at. And it had gone through all the neighborhoods. It was, I think they called it the Superior Fire, but like thousands of homes. And when a home burns, there's a lot of more stuff that's leached into the air than like, say, a natural wildfire, which still are toxic. But the home and the neighborhoods and like those are really, I mean, plastics and metals and all sorts of stuff are leached into the air. And so she had actually said that she had seen a lot of babies born, and you can tell his is fading because we've been doing so much work, but there's a little bit of like blue in the white of his eye. And that's actually metals. And so in his case, the eczema, and in a lot of babies, the eczema is a balancer. It's trying to take the toxicity and bring it out of the body, right? It doesn't look very great. We don't like it there. And so what a lot of people do, I really believe unknowingly, is push it back into the body with steroids and something to suppress it. And so instead of allowing it to come out, which is unsightly, but you can do different things to help the body to bring it out. And there's things you can do topically to help the skin. Like we use a lot of tallow and red light and different things to help the skin itself as we're like detoxing. But eczema really is just that. So she was saying she had seen a lot of babies born with that because of the fires and because that stuff stays in the air. I know they had said that the air from that fire was actually more toxic than 9/11, which I thought was
Wow.
really wild. And it just doesn't go away like that. And even though I hadn't really been in that area much, I waited 5 months after the fire to even go back to work down there. I was just working remotely because it just smelled, and
Yeah.
the building smelled and they had to do so much cleanup. Um, but we had fire, we had smoke from a Canadian fire,
Mm-hmm.
just a
Mm-hmm.
couple months ago. So
Yeah.
you think about a fire that's less than 50 miles away, of course that stuff's going to linger.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of it. I mean, there aren't any babies born now without toxicity. I mean,
I
it's just,
agree. Yeah.
it's super sad. And so, of course, if there's like an environmental event like that, it's something that can just tip their little bodies a little too much. So, but again, looking at eczema as the body's way of saying, hey, this is something I'm trying to heal. Where, fungus and heavy metals kind of go together. Fungus is another name for candida, for yeast.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
mold, right? It's that same family. And it's just using that to sort of bring it out of the body. And so doing, what we've been doing is like a lot of different detox baths. And then um, I'm doing an anti-candida diet currently, and then just to not feed it. And then in
Mm-hmm.
addition to like some gentle herbs, and we're using like some frequency medicine and different things, but just some stuff to just help his body gently detox. Because at the same time, you don't want to push it too hard because it's uncomfortable. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never really had eczema, but you've seen the kids
Oh, I
before
had it
where
as a
it's like,
kid. It was
did you?
horrible. My
It's just
arms would bleed, the backs of my legs would bleed, and it would happen cyclically. And yeah, I was able to cure it as an adult and stay away from specific foods and just kind of
yeah.
detox my body. And I don't get it anymore as an adult, but I had it horrible as a kid. It was
It's
very uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
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 So you sort of want to do this like push and pull, right?
Yeah.
Of like really supporting the skin. We haven't had any of that like cracking or bleeding or anything. It
Oh, that's good.
honestly, now if you look at it, you'd be like, what is she making a big deal? Like, doesn't
Yeah.
even look like anything. But when it's like your child and
Yeah.
I've got this like medical brain, you're like, there's a little spot here. But anyways,
Yeah.
it's super mild compared to what I've seen a lot of kids have. But it really did open up another rabbit hole, because the first post I did on eczema got this massive response. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is like a rampant
It's
thing.
huge. It's huge right now. Yeah.
And I do think a lot of it is from toxicity. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is from, environmental medications that were just all sorts of things that kids' bodies just aren't able to detox, right?
Yeah. Yeah. My son actually had a little bit of it as well. That's kind of why I started following you, because I was like, okay, great diet,
Mm-hmm.
no medical interventions of
Mm-hmm.
injections of any sort because of
Right.
what happened with my daughter. He was on the
Yeah.
cord for 10 minutes, like until it turned white, like literally felt like I did absolutely everything perfect. And then I'm like, this makes no sense, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, we've kind of been on the same, but using homeopathy, that sort of thing, just trying to look at it a little bit more naturally than just do it, because we went to the doctor for his, I guess it was his like 2 months. That's another compromise with my husband. We have to go to a pediatrician, but she can't make us do anything medically.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Crunchy Moms Network found one. So there we are. So
That's
she
great.
wanted to give us antibiotics and steroids right off the bat. And I was like, I can't, I just don't think that that's going to be the thing that's going to heal him, you know?
Mm-mm,
And then I
mm-mm.
asked her, I'm like, do you think it's diet at all? Do you think I should stop drinking raw milk and, stop eating dairy and maybe eggs? And she's like, no, because he would just have blood in his stool if that was causing yeah. And I was like, I actually don't think that's
Ah,
true either. So I'm just going to stop having those things,
right, right.
just preventatively.
Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
that's what's sad to me is that so then you give a 2-month-old antibiotics and now you're just wiping out their
Their
gut,
gut.
and their gut is already struggling if they have eczema.
Right.
So then you're just like, that's going to make the problem worse.
And
And
then
then
are
the
they going to start
steroids
getting ear
suppress it.
infections and, like what's next? It
Right.
starts with one thing and then it's like we suppress that and what else is going to pop up because you're suppressing that thing. And I
Yes.
just, if I hadn't had the experience with my daughter where everything was like perfect and fine until, her
Aw.
13-month appointment and then we lost everything right after that, I
Wow.
probably would never even be looking at this stuff. I probably wouldn't be sitting here because she kind of catapulted my whole health journey. But when you look at things through, like, look what's happened to her as a result over the last 15 years from all these suppressive therapies, you have to question, like, is this what we're supposed to be doing for our children and for ourselves as adults
Yeah.
as well? Like, should you be popping a Tylenol every time you had a headache? Like, probably not.
I mean, what's even interesting, I love that you work with homeopathy as well. We started working with a homeopath, and I took some Tylenol after birth. I had to have it was a super mild DNC, but they had to do just to get that piece of placenta
Yeah.
off. And I was grateful that by the time I got to the hospital, it had already detached. So she was like, I remember telling her when I was like super pale, no blood. I'm like, you need to be real gentle in there. I want another one. Like, just please.
Don't
And she
mess
was like,
anything up.
okay. Yeah. So she's like, I barely did anything. It was right there. I was like, great. But there were a lot of hands going up there. Like I
Oh,
told you,
yeah.
with moving the hand
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything else. And then they reached up there a couple of times to feel the placenta before. Anyway, so
Oh,
I was on a little bit of ibuprofen and Tylenol, and I really did not want to do the Tylenol, and I had stopped it pretty quickly. But then I was so fortunate to find this homeopath where we literally got to detox Tylenol. So
oh, nice. That's
Asher
good.
detox Tylenol, I detox Tylenol, and I was kind of like, okay, we're like clean. And we got to detox some anesthesia, which was really cool. Cause
Oh,
again,
good.
you're
Oh, yeah.
you're thinking like, oh man, I did this whole home birth so I wouldn't have any medical,
Interventions.
interventions. And then I think they, whatever they give you when you're like out is just like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. A good friend of mine, she talks all about the structured water inside the body, the easy water, and kind of what anesthesia does just to that and to your mitochondria. I mean, it really does make your body have a much harder time detoxing in general. And that's why I'm like, I did my best to detox from the IVF and from all the
Yes,
anesthesia and everything I had to go through for that. But part of me is like, well, is that what ended up causing, it's like we always want to have a specific answer,
you
but it's
do.
like I live in Atlanta. I live in a big ass city,
Yeah. Yeah.
toxic stuff everywhere. As much as I just don't even I wear beef tallow for like
Right. Right.
it's
Yes.
like everything I do personally that I put in my body is as natural as possible. But if you're going to live in this world, period, it's kind of a toxic soup.
It is. And I think at the end of the day, it was a good like experience for me to be like, you just can't like I needed any more lessons in giving up control. I
Right.
guess it's like a like relentless teaching, like
Yeah.
whacking me over the head, but there's only so much you could do. So
Yeah.
it gave me some peace of mind that I got to detox the anesthesia from both of us homeopathically and work out with her on, getting rid of some other things and working with his skin. And it all seems to be working. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, you could only do so much, and that's it. And then you have to just kind of let it be,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're just continually looking like, what else do I need to? It's
It's
like, he just wants to play. He just wants to
right.
have fun with you.
Right.
He's not
Exactly.
concerned that like his, ear has this thing on it or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's just all parenting and just, I think being human in general, it's all so many lessons are there for us. If we'll sit back and stop trying to control everything, it's just kind of finding that balance.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next? You thinking more babies?
Yeah, I know. We definitely want another one for sure. Speaking of mediums, my friends who are a little bit clairvoyant, they're like, she's ready to come down. I'm like, Mom is not
Oh,
ready yet.
yeah. Give
This
me
is
some
like,
time.
that was a big experience. Let's like let the body, I mean, I'm also big on trying to like let the body heal from something like birth. That's
Birth
a
and
big thing, and
pregnancy. Yeah.
pregnancy. It's huge.
Yeah.
Um, it did give me a lot of insight too. I don't know if this is like a side topic, but I see a lot of women who, after they have had kids and their kids are a little older, and they come in and they're like, I'm tired. I don't feel, I just don't feel like my vibrant self. I don't have a libido.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women like that,
A
right?
lot. Oh, yeah.
And I'm just realizing, going through this experience, like it's, motherhood is a lot. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
on the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're a mother, a lot of mothers don't prioritize a lot of self-care, right? Like a
No.
lot of them aren't
Mm-mm.
even coming to see a practitioner
Mm-mm.
until their kids are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So they've had years of sort of prioritizing their kids, which is definitely important. But there's like a Chinese proverb that's like, a healthy kids, it all starts with the mom. Like a lot of times, if you
Mm-hmm.
can't get rid of or like these little tough illnesses or things that you
Mm-hmm.
can't seem to get rid of your out of your kids, it's like starts with the mom. Like a healthy mom really does create like a healthy home and a healthy family.
Yep.
And so it just makes me think, like, there's this whole slew of women who are really not putting themselves first for a very long time. They're having all these hormonal issues. And I think going through it, and, my son's not even 6 months old yet, but it's a ton on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
really made me think so much about how much more help I think moms need
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's like self-care for moms. And, by the time
It
you get to
sounds
the
so
end of the day,
floofy.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like who's got time for that, and by the time you get to the end of the day with working and then caring for a baby and spending time with them and all of that, you sometimes just want to completely turn off your brain and do something
Yes.
like harmful, like
Yes. Yeah.
watch TV at night,
Right.
like all blasting your body with artificial light. It's like terrible staying up late, not getting that restorative deep sleep that you really need, and I see so many women and moms, and I even fallen into it a few times myself of like, I have this rule of like putting my phone down at a certain time of the day, but I'm like, well, if I wear blue blockers and I turn my screen red, then I can lay in the
Yes.
bathtub in a salt bath and scroll. And then I'm like, no, I still feel like complete crap when I do that,
Right,
because I
right,
need to
right,
be not on the phone, letting myself unwind and going into bed,
right,
not
right.
watching this junk. And so I
Yeah.
think it's so tough.
And you think of all the stuff you just said, so you could scroll for a little bit, and it's like the average woman doesn't even really know that a lot of that is harmful. And
No, they
then
don't.
they're probably drinking some crappy wine
Wine. Yeah.
that just is like helping them calm down, but
Yep.
it's
And
like loaded with
snacking on
crap and
sugar, spiking their
Yes.
insulin.
Right. And then they wake up the next day feeling horrible. So they
Right.
slam a ton of coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, with like probably a bad creamer. And then all of a sudden it's like this repetitive cycle. And then they come and see like me and you after their kids are like, 8 and 10. And
Yeah.
they're like, I
You're like,
feel terrible. And I'm like, we've got to like undo the last like
right.
like 10 years of what you did to yourself when you were parenting, completely stressed out with like
Yeah.
high cortisol. It's just really kind of opened my mind a little bit more to all of that. And so, yeah, I mean, back to your original question, like I'd love another one, but I do think there's like this time of like, if you can, I mean,
Rest.
I'm 40, so I'm not, going to be like, let's wait another 6 years. Like I
Right.
definitely think we'll be,
I had my son at 43. So, I
there
mean,
you go.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and this is so cool. This last year, I had this group of women, and I say group, none of them knew each other, but they were all 40 to 46 having kids. It
Oh,
was so
nice.
cool. It was so cool.
Nice.
And a couple of my friends who had waited quite a bit in between their first and their second all had kids, 45, 43, 44. And it was just really great to see that,
Wow.
and great to see these like really healthy, babies that are like coming in to like really
Yeah.
conscious parents. I don't know. It was
The
awesome.
baby, I'm trying to book a podcast with my friend Lindsay, who's like kind of a famous midwife, and
Yeah.
we love to talk about this, like the babies that are coming in right now and the parents that
Yes.
they're choosing. Cause I know for a fact my son chose us because he's like, I know they're going to protect me from, forced medical interventions. I
Yes.
know they're going to be kind of awake to what's happening right now. And so
Hmm.
he's just I know your son is too, just like such an interesting little soul. And just from day one, just so inquisitive and like vocal and doing all these things. I'm like, gosh, it's really
Yes.
amazing to watch. So that's so cool. You have kind of a
Yeah.
group of, yeah.
I had like full body goosebumps when you were talking because it feels the same way. Like I definitely feel like he chose us for very same reason. He's so sensitive. He's got eczema
Yeah.
from whatever. I'm like, what if he would have gone
God, I
to,
know.
I'm like,
And
yikes.
well, my husband and I are like, we would have had another child with autism if
Yeah.
we had put him through
Hmm.
the regular
Hmm.
medical. And we know, hands
Yes.
down, after
Yes.
seeing the eczema and going through all of that and kind of being on the other side now, we know for a fact that he would have been just like his sister and regressed just the way that she did. It may have even happened earlier for him. For her it was a year, but for him it's
I was
like,
gonna say, so it was a year for
yeah, it was
her.
a year because I look through the videos because I compare the two of them a lot, and I'm like, yeah, she was doing a lot of the same stuff that, and my husband freaks out because he's like, oh, well, was Alexis doing that at this age? I'm like, yep, because he's talking and just like just all these cool things, now he's climbing and crawling and
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
everywhere and he's laughing at jokes and it's just so fun.
Right.
And
It's
he's
so
like, I
fun.
don't remember Alexis doing this. I'm like, yeah, she did. And he's like, oh no, that doesn't make me feel any better. I'm like, are you like falling under the brainwashing that everyone else is falling under? Because you and I
Right.
both know what happened to her. We're
Yeah.
not allowing that to happen to him. And he's like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it's still scary, even kind of having gone through it with one. You're like, okay, is he, yeah, my husband,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
And
it's
you're like
not,
watching, like, is
yeah,
everything? I worked in California for a while, and that's when like my eyes had opened to that sort of. I didn't really have much of an opinion on like those medical interventions. I didn't feel like great about them. I just
yeah,
didn't really know enough about them. And then I had just seen kid after kid after kid
yeah,
coming in who had complications, and because it's really forced there,
yeah.
right? In
Oh yeah.
California, it's like there's no, personal exemption, or
Hmm.
it's brutal. And so and I had gone and seen a lot of great people speak too about it and really learned a lot. And so it just like changed my entire world, truly.
Yeah.
To seeing kind of a sad world, to be honest. But
It's very sad, now the latest podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast is
mhm,
out and I'm like, finally, finally
finally.
people are bringing this out and talking about it, and it's not like the last 15 years of my life is out there and that's what
Yeah.
I've been going through and why we waited so long. And it's like, and there's millions of other people in the same boat, but it's just super suppressed, and
Super suppressed
yeah,
and
yeah,
not talked about. And
yeah.
Robert Kennedy was like, I saw him speak. I've probably seen him speak in person like 4 different times. I mean,
Wow.
it's so impactful because
Yeah.
a lot of the professionals, and I'm like Sherry Tenpenny and a whole bunch of them, none of them wanted to get into that
No.
topic.
Mm-mm.
They
No.
were just sort
No.
of
They're
like
like,
forced into it. And
yeah.
so their passion is even, it's just so palpable when
Yeah.
you're able to like listen to them. And it's just, the whole thing is very sad and scary. But
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
sorry for your experience, but
Yeah.
I am glad that it seems like at least it's able to somehow get out a little bit more now.
I hope so. I hope so. But yeah, just going back to our kids, if they're that impacted by air or like a toxic environment,
Yeah,
can you even imagine, how things would have been if we had gone that extra step with like, all these
right.
interventions? It's kind of
Right.
like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't have the same baby. I'm like 100% sure of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like you think about their bodies having so much to detox anyways.
Yeah.
Like I even think so. I was born in 1982 and the recommended
Oh yeah, there's like
schedule at that
3 or
time was like
so,
pretty small,
yeah,
right?
79 for me, but yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, so now obviously the schedule is completely insane. But
Yeah.
back then we didn't have Wi-Fi and
No,
as much EMFs
no.
and which all, as you know, like
Yeah,
everything vibrates, right?
yeah.
So it's like, EMFs are make mold and yeast worse,
Worse
right?
because it breaks down the blood-brain barrier, the gut barrier. Like
Correct.
it's yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's like not only are we exposed to so much more EMF, which I do think is so under talked about, and
Oh, agree.
it's
I
just
talk
so
about it all the time and I piss people off and tell them to take their AirPods out and stop wearing the Fitbits and
yes.
the Apple Watches. And they're like, why? That's stupid. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Blasting yourself all day long. And I think
Yeah.
because you can't see it, right? That's the
Right.
whole
Right.
problem
The
for
Invisible
people. It's like
Rainbow is the book I
you
always
can't
point
see it.
people to.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, because it's like, and then it's just getting heightened and more heightened. And then they want to change the schedule now to like just a million different interventions. And you're just like, first of
Right.
all, whose body can just definitely
Handle
not the
that.
body of a baby, but
No.
really nobody's body
Yeah.
would be okay. Like
Yeah.
even an adult, as we've seen,
Oh
is
yeah.
not doing well.
No.
So
No.
I
No.
don't know. The whole thing's crazy.
It is to me too. It totally is.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we could probably go down like
I was like that. You said you love rabbit holes, and there's probably so
like
many more you could go down.
totally, totally. Well, I would love if you would tell my audience where they can find you. I'm going to put all of your links, courses, website, all of that in the information section, but just if they're just listening, driving or something, where could they find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram, which is Dr. Nicole NMD, like naturopathic medical doctor. And then my website is just drnicolehuffman.com, and it's Huffman with like a U, HU. And then I have a podcast with my best friend called Coffee with the Docs. And we've been doing it for, I want to say like 3 or 4 years at this point. And we drop an episode like twice a month or something. And it's just
Nice.
super fun. So I would say those are the three best places.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to link all of that. And thank you so much for taking time out.